We've glanced, albeit casually, at our timeline events being lengthened or shortened in earlier tutorials. Therefore, here in this tutorial, I'll look at two important editing functions, namely event trimming and later splitting events. As I say, we have casually glanced at trimming events previously, so what I will do here is look more closely at this lengthening and shortening of events, but refer to it by its official name. Therefore, in this tutorial, we're going to look at event trimming. So with this one event on our timeline, I want to be able to trim the beginning or the end. Well, by rolling the mouse over the end of this event, you'll see how our cursor changes to that double-ended arrow. If I move it away and back a few times, you'll probably see it better. The cursor alters or adapts to take on that double-ended arrow, and when it's like that, then that means I can trim this event. So I'll left click and trim some of this event away. Easy enough. The end of this event has now been shortened. By the way, did you notice or realise that when I was doing this, the audio gets trimmed too, owing to the video and the audio being tied together as a group? Well, that's what we would expect, because the audio is embedded within the video. I'm not saying it's what we always want, but in this case, that's what happened. If you want to unlink the two components of this event, the audio from the video, well, we did see this in an earlier tutorial, and in fact in the last one too, i.e. we saw how to ungroup this video and audio to make them separate entities. Just to remind you and to show you a slightly different method, I'll show you again. Right-click on one of the elements of this group, whether it's the video or the audio, and when you do, this menu pops up. Now, actually at the moment we can't see it owing to my screen resolution, so we'll do it a slightly different way. If we go up to Edit, then we can roll down to where it says Group and then across. Now, in our previous examples, well, we went to here. However, for this tutorial, I'll show you that if you click on Clear, well, that also delinks the group's connection. And then by doing that, then you disconnect them from each other. Okay, so you can see how they move independently. Right then, easy enough. Let me run up to Edit and then to Undo. I'm going to have to do this a couple of times, well, about 4 times actually, until I get back to the position I was at. You'll see the appropriate undo rule, i.e. ungrouping. Okay, so now both my components are reconnected once more, or regrouped as it were. Now there is another method of being able to trim the different components of one event, and we do it by clicking on this button up here. This is the Ignore Event Grouping button. Notice the shortcut there, Control plus Shift plus U. And when you do click on this, this temporarily suspends the link between this event's video and audio grouping. Now let me say that again. This temporarily suspends the link between this event's video and audio grouping. So there is a subtle difference by using this Ignore Event Grouping button. Using this button allows us to retain the group link for later use. I'll show you this in a moment. First, with this Ignore Event Grouping button clicked, then I can continue to trim the audio without affecting the video. Alternatively, I can go the other way. I can trim the video without affecting the audio event length. Okay, now something else to notice is that as I drag the audio event to the right by left-clicking there and extend trimming it to the right, i.e. extending or bringing back in the audio that we've just trimmed away, notice when we line up the end with the video, then we sort of magnetize the audio to the video when it gets to the edge of the video's length. However, when we carry on dragging to the right, extending the trim length, the audio still carries on in isolation. Now it does this because that particular button, the Ignore Event Grouping button, it's because that button is still activated. So now let's deactivate it by clicking on it once more. Therefore now, when I drag the audio to the left, notice as they line up, they rejoin or group together once more. As I continue dragging, when we get to the event's video length, we can see how the video and audio are relinked, or in other words, tied back together again as their original grouping. Okay, now I'll select the event and hit delete so that we've got this blank timeline once more, and I'll just run up and hit the save button.